To episode 7 of Brother. Okay, that's how we're starting out today.
Nice.
Good stuff. Welcome to episode 7 of Brothers Contracting. Cory Fischman and Chad Fischman here again today to discuss with you a little bit more about business. And today's topic is the customer experience.
So, customer experience. What makes a customer experience special?
Does
it matter? In some industries, maybe not. In others,
that's a good point. In an industry like in the industries we've been working in for a long time, with private residential construction
and retail,
basically, the customer experience is huge. It's incredibly important. It's very important to make people feel very comfortable with you as a business, with you as a business owner, if you're meeting with them personally, with your brand, with your identity, something that we discuss with clients all the time. It's such a simple thing, but a lot of businesses can't say this, but we tell people all the time, where we are, because we actually have a physical location, and something even just as simple as that is part of the customer experience. It gives a level of comfort to people. But, areas of industry like, let's say, asphalt, our other venture, customer experience is still going to play a role. It still does play a role, but it's not as predominant. It's not at the forefront of the whole thing. For the retail business, we've got people coming into our location and meeting with us in person, and we're doing design meetings and all of that, whereas asphalt, that's something more, we can quote over the phone effectively, and so it's a different experience altogether.
Yeah.
Your thoughts?
I think anything business to business or wholesale side of things doesn't demand the same type of customer experience that you're going to need at the end user, where the retail side of things. If you're selling widgets to different, retailers, and you're a distributor, you tell them, hey, I got 2,000 of them on my shelves. This is what the product is. This is what it does. That retailer either purchases it or they don't, and they don't really need to have the same experience on the business-to-business side of things as typically you're trying to be more sold at the retail end. And I think by being sold on something, you want to feel good about it. You want to have the whole experience, whether it's from the actual institution that's selling you something or whether it's the product. So that's why, even a good example is refrigeration. So we sell True Refrigeration. They have both a commercial line and they have a retail line. And the commercial line for restaurants and bars and even like grocery stores and stuff like that is not a refined product.
Bare bones.
It's bare bones. So it has, rougher edges. It doesn't have nice rounded curves to the stainless steel, because all of that is a bit more expensive. It takes more time and labor, and it requires a bit more of a finish and obviously a higher end expectation from something that's in your personal home versus being under the bar where the bar back slamming it open and closed and grabbing ice out of it.
Right. Now, of course, in the retail industry, the consumer, the customer is the direct retail consumer, the client that's coming through your door to buy what you have. However, though, even with business to business like you're talking about, the consumer is the business buying the product. So even still with True Manufacturing, that refrigeration brand, they have a rep who actually approached us. We love this guy, Doug. We've been working with him for years, and he approached us at a boat show back when we were doing boat shows and home shows and things like that. He was on the booth behind our booth. He heard us talking, and he came over to us and was very personable. He listened to our pitch. He said
2,000 times over the weekend. I think he had it replicated in his mind.
Yeah, he knew exactly who we were and what we were selling. And he said, "Hey guys, I might have an interesting product for you." And he brought us over and showed us his product. And honestly, it was a great experience. And then after that, they sent me out to St. Louis to their manufacturing facility. They've got 4 million square feet of manufacturing. They brought me to a baseball game there. They have like box seats at the baseball game. They had a private chef in-house to wine and dine us, all the guests for this tour experience. And so that is the customer experience from a manufacturer to a retailer.
It is. I mean, I think it was a one-time thing, and it's a little bit different. It doesn't need to happen. And, it really didn't change your thought or process of like wanting to buy that product because you know it would sell well?
Well, they want to give you the experience, but they want you to also understand the product, understand the background behind it, the manufacturing process, all of that. Once you get it, and then you start selling the product, then they're like, okay, he knows how to sell it. He knows the product. They're doing well with it, and we're all good. They don't need to
get you to a baseball game again.
Follow-up experience so much. Yeah. And the reality is, we don't need to do follow-up experience with our retail clientele very much either. We bring them in here. We discuss the project. We do the design process. We do all of that. We talk them through every step of the process. Then we do their project, and we do hold their hands throughout that process. But as soon as we're done, there's not a lot of follow-up necessary beyond that
There's
point.
There's definitely more with the retail side of things in terms of the customer experience being needed and to excel at a higher level because you're trying to stand out from a large, massive, group of people. And everybody these days, I say this all the time because expectations have gotten higher and higher and higher in retail, especially in what we do with outdoor patio renovations and appliances. And a lot of our clients, drive a Rolls Royce too, and their customer experience in that vehicle is extremely high. They have starlit nights in their roof, and their ceiling of the car, and massages being done to their back while they're driving. So what they're looking for in an outdoor kitchen or a patio may be of a similar caliber. And so, although the refrigerator or ice maker can't massage your feet while you're standing in front of it, the level of finish and fit and finish has had to increase, and our ability to cater and be a bit more of a warmer institution versus, hey, here you go, here's your refrigerator, we're done with you kind of thing is become more extreme.
To get into some of the detail, to explain a little bit what we mean by the customer experience, there's definitely a number of things that throughout the years we've added and changed and maneuvered and continued refining over and over and over again. It's a very iterative process. Once again, in our episode about processes and systems, we talked about a little bit about our sales process and how that whole system works, where we have clients come in here to the showroom first. We meet with them and discuss their project with them, and then we go out to their house. We take scans of their patio with a LiDAR scanning tool, and then we get them a quote very quickly. Nobody waits more than 2 weeks maximum for a quote from us, and that alone is huge. One of the things that we hear all the time from clients that they complain about with speaking to other businesses is, well, I called them, I spoke to them about the project, and they've never gotten back to me. It's 2-3 months later, and they've never gotten back to me. Yeah. At that point in time, once they have the quote, if they move forward to the design phase, when we have them come back in, they come and sit down at my desk. I've got every single time, for every design meeting, I've got bottles of water set up on the desk for everyone coming. Not only are they on my desk, but they're sitting on top of cocktail napkins with our logo on them. There's chips and candies and snacks ready to go.
All the fun stuff.
We've even discussed putting a menu together at some point in time because we got a fridge for cocktails and drinks and sparkling waters and all that kind of stuff. And but those are the things that they're just tiny elements.
Yeah, doesn't cost much for a bag of chips.
Doesn't cost much for a bunch of personalized napkins.
Yeah, it's a finish. It's the finishing touches that are huge, and customers really do appreciate it.
Mm-hmm. When that initial visit, when they're in the showroom before they've even given us a design deposit, we've got beer on tap here that, hey, if you'd like, feel free to indulge. We've got cups right next to that. We've got beers in the fridge and waters and everything. And so we bring everybody a water for the start of that meeting. We just want people to be comfortable and happy and enjoy their experience here.
We did have one of our clients who, fantastic client. We actually ended up having a design meeting with them and had quite a few cocktails with them hanging here, and to the point where there was things after the job was started. It was like, I thought we got that in a different color. We're like, no, it was definitely this color. And it was like these final decisions were being made after a bottle of wine was finished. And we had a great night. It was a great experience, and we had a good time. But
to reiterate that, though, they had quite a few drinks. We were diligently working soberly, making sure we were keeping track of all the details. And so, because it is, of course, still work time for us, but we want others to feel like it's just a casual, enjoyable experience, or they're here to have some fun and design something that they're going to enjoy using for years to come. And so those are the elements. It's really tiny stuff, but it takes a little bit of thought and a little bit of effort, and you can make a big change with that.
Yeah, I agree. There's definitely certain companies out there that are really great at the customer experience and really excel at it and show and have always shown their ability to go one step further. And that's the thing is, like, if you're a landscape company, do you need to come out and, give your client a bottle of water with a little napkin? No. You're cutting the grass once a week. But
you should roll out a red carpet for them to let them walk out the front door and come take a look at their lawn each time it's done, and then roll it back up and then head on out.
There are simple things that you do appreciate with that, though, is like something as simple as online bill pay. Makes my life way easier for me to electronically pay it. Don't ask me to send the check. I don't want to have to write a check and do that. And it's simple stuff like that that really
so true.
Just going that one little bit further from everybody else in your group will make you stand out. Ritz-Carlton, the gold standard, and we talked about this briefly in our last podcast, they are one of the ultimate customer experience companies ever and have always been. And they have a book that's called The Gold Standard. It's a Ritz-Carlton experience. And their whole thing is do whatever it takes. Make the client happy. I mean, to the point where if you call down to the concierge desk or the front desk and you said, hey, my son just turned 3 and I'd like to have a bicycle for him today, a brand new bike, can you go and get a bike? They will do that. They will buy a bike, or at least they used to. I'm not sure. But that is their concept, is they will go all the way out for anything. And anytime that you're staying at a Ritz, and there are other hotels, similar experience, JW Marriott's, which actually I think that's a Ritz-Carlton, under the purview or the large conglomerate group that it is now, they'll give you a glass of champagne. And it's not a good glass. This is not Verve. It is a basic glass of champagne. But what a difference it makes, every time that you go in, you're immediately, okay. Even if you don't drink it, you're just holding a champagne glass, walking around. You just feel like I'm on vacation. I'm in a nice place. I feel really good now. Thank you. And that's all, that's all it takes in certain circumstances to make the difference and make people feel really special.
Another company that I've always appreciated learning about, and it was started by the late Tony Hsieh, Zappos.com, just incredible, a company about customer experience. Right off the bat, everyone said you'll never be able to sell shoes online because people need to try shoes on to know that they fit before they buy them. And Tony Hsieh came in and basically said, no, we'll be able to sell them online, and built a massive online shoe store by just giving a couple simple things. And basically, if the shoes don't fit, you get free return shipping instantly.
That was an early player to that. Amazon obviously is major in that field now, but at the time when Zappos came out with that, it was like game changing.
Yeah.
And how do they have the profit margins to sell a pair of $50 sneakers and be able to ship them back in this bulky box for free? They were taking a hit on that, and that was their concept, was that most likely you're probably just going to keep them in their mind. It's like, I don't want to go through the hassle of sending it back.
Right.
But the other thing that they really did well, and that he had spoken about at the time, was that they underpromised and overperformed.
Yeah, I remember the first time I ordered some shoes from Zappos, and
it was a week of shipping.
It was 2 or 3 day shipping that it was supposed to be, and I placed the order, and this was just like a normal pair of sneakers. These weren't any special shoes. They automatically upgraded me to overnight shipping. They were on my doorstep the next morning.
Yeah, and that's awesome.
And which is unbelievable. The under promise and overperform was extraordinary. And And Tony J himself was just such a unique individual. He had, the office floor plan where everyone was in cubicles just like one another. They all had the personalized cubicles, including himself.
And he was right in the middle of the floor.
He's worth hundreds of millions, and he's just sitting in a cubicle right next to all of his other staff.
Yeah, it was neat.
And then, of course, when you answer the phone, they had a very specific hiring process where they make sure you are the Zappos employee, the type of person they're looking for. And, if you call Zappos, I think they still say, hey, this is a wonderful day here at Zappos. How can I help you? It's just little things like that. The person sounds happy and they're saying it's a wonderful day. Well, it's just a nice way to start. It could be hideous out there. They're in Nevada, I think. They're in Las Vegas. But
I think the big thing with all of it is we're starting to see a very big divide on customer experiences that are extreme in one way or the other. And what I mean by that is you have in a couple different, we'll go telecommunications and we'll go doctors. Those are both really big, things that you can see this. Telecommunications companies like Xfinity and, Verizon and all this stuff, it's not a very good experience, especially Xfinity or DirecTV. They're going to tell you that they're going to be there between 7 a.m. and 9 p.m. today, and you have to stay home in order for them to get in to service your TV or your accounts or whatever.
Guaranteed, if you leave for 30 minutes to go grab lunch, that's when they're getting there.
Yep, yeah, when you least expect it.
And they leave.
Or if you stay there all day, guarantee it's the 9 p.m. show up.
Oh, yeah.
So,
for sure.
And that's the thing. Is like you have those experiences. You can't get anybody on the phone. You're going through the automation calls. That's your terrible experience. Although they provide a good product, typically, the service is absolutely horrifying, but they don't care. They don't really care about it because they're so big. And then, in the
basically a monopoly, so it doesn't really hurt them very much.
Correct. Yeah. Please take it up with the manager. Have fun. The other thing is, in like the doctor space is you have now concierge doctors have become so popular, whether it's like MD VIP programs and so on and so forth. They have concierge doctors where you're now paying out of pocket cash per quarter or per year to even be able to talk to this doctor. You can't even get into him anymore. Or the doctor was bought out by a large conglomerate doctor group. And once again, then the phone lines shift over to, India and all this different places or to offices that are a massive answering call service office instead of the actual doctor's office. And so then they don't know your files. They tell you they're going to transfer you. Okay, let me get the information. We'll schedule an appointment. It's awful.
Yeah.
But on the concierge doctor side of things, I have my doctor's cell phone. I called him on Christmas Day. When I was out west skiing, and he literally called me back 2 minutes later. I had a sinus infection. He's like, all right, no problem. I'll call it in. Tell me which CVS you need it at. Incredible experience. I mean, there's just nothing like that. And I think we're starting to see that become more popular again as we've seen these big companies grow and grow and grow, like the airlines. And now things are getting a little bit nicer again. They're trying to say, well, we're going to make it a better customer experience.
Well, like you said, it was kind of going with the doctors, like it's going one way or the other.
Right.
It's this great divide. It's so strange because exactly the scenario you're talking about is what I dealt with. I was seeing one doctor who decided to switch his practice over to a concierge practice. At that point in time, I just wasn't sure about the value of that, and so I switched doctor's offices, and that at the same time, that doctor's office was being bought out by a large conglomerate. And a couple of years later, I was having a surgery, and my surgeon was literally trying to call my doctor's office and saying, they were calling me saying, look, we can't stay on hold for an hour to speak to somebody, to get your files, to get your information. I'm going to need you to do it. And then I was literally spending an hour on the phone because they had changed the call from going directly to the office that I go into to see my doctor, to some call center in Miami that answers all the calls nationally, and you're literally on hold for 45 minutes to an hour to speak to somebody who doesn't know anything about you, who doesn't know who you are. You're just a number in a computer. And so after that entire experience, right after the surgery, I said, actually a week before the surgery, I said, I'm done with this. I'm going back to my previous doctor who had started the concierge practice. I started with them. And it's just like you're saying, it's been an incredible experience ever since.
Yeah.
When I get to the office, instead of waiting for 30, 40 minutes in the waiting room, I'm literally the only person in there. And I sit down, and about 30 seconds later, they say, Cory, come on in.
Yeah.
And very personal. They spend time with you. It's those things that people are, I'm paying out of pocket in order to have that experience. And I'm willing to do so. Not everyone's capable of doing so. I feel very fortunate that I am, but
that experience is worth it if you have it, and that's the difference. And some people like that, they value that experience and paying the additional cost for it, or they don't. And that's kind of just everybody's scenario. Is you're not going to get everybody because you're giving them a bag of chips or you're giving them a bottle of water during their experience with you, but if somebody feels like it's worth it and they like that experience and they want that to be part of their overall thing, they know they can get on the phone with us later on down the line, and that's important.
So I'd say that one of the big keys to the customer experience is knowing your industry, knowing your customers, and that's just so important. All of these different things we've been talking about for doctors, making sure that you're not waiting and answering your calls and getting back to you. Those are important factors. For selling custom outdoor patio and outdoor kitchen projects, giving that experience when they come here and visit and doing the design experience so that they can be comfortable and feel comfortable with us. That's really important. If you're selling products online, making it an easy transaction so that you can return, ship, all of that. You have to know your industry first and know your clients and your customers first to be able to truly understand what they need, what might be missing, what little extra things you can add and change to make that experience better.
So here's another good example, and it's something that I personally do. Is Airbnb is a great company. They came out and started doing what VRBO and Vacation Rental by Owner had done for many years, but they used to do that in newspapers and magazines. And Airbnb was able to come out and create a better online platform to host so that you can host people at your house, whether it's a bedroom or an entire house rental, instead of you having to stay at a hotel. And it's made it a lot more affordable for people to travel in a lot of cases. And I personally, with my wife, do rent out our one of our houses via Airbnb. And even within that, you can have different experiences or choose to create a better experience. And what I mean by that is, as a host and as a patron, because I've stayed at many Airbnbs, you get a very vast difference in experiences, and not all are created equally. There was a comedian that came out a little while ago and had done a funny skit, and one of his bits was like, you go to the hotel and the experience is magical, and they tell you, just leave your towels on the floor, put them there, use as many as you want, lay in bed and put on this robe, and it's just a wonderful experience. And they give you champagne as you arrive. And then you go to Airbnb and it's like this old lady, and it's just so funny. This guy's like, the key is under the plant in the backyard, let yourself in. It's like what a different experience.
Make sure it's all clean when you leave.
When you leave, strip all the beds. He's like, put them in the bag, put it by the front door. He's like, what am I, your cleaning lady? It was a good skip, but the reality is you can create a different experience even within that realm. And for my wife and I, we've wanted to elevate our experience for our clients a little bit more. And so when they arrive, we don't just have the cleaning people go through and just clean it. We go through after they've cleaned it, and then we put out the towels in the specific spots. We put out a handwritten little note and a letter to the person who's staying there that's personalized to them. Whether, hey, we know you're coming in from Wisconsin. We hope you have a nice warm vacation in South Florida. Just a nice little note. And we leave a bottle of wine for them with a couple snacks, because you never know if they're coming in on a late flight or whatever it is. And I think it's just that little bit extra, that gesture that means so much when you're charging people a lot of money per night. The $17 or $15 for the bottle of wine is not a big deal if they're going to maybe come back and they really like the feeling that they got when they came and stayed with you.
Yeah, I mean, say that you've got a neighbor who's literally got the identical house and they're also on Airbnb, and maybe you're charging $500 a night and they're charging $500 a night, but you're putting out extra little snacks, a bottle of wine, things like that, and they're not. Right off the bat, people are going to choose, because of the reviews being posted online, the photos of these things that you've added in, and the customers saying, what a nice thing. You're going to get the booking every time over the other one,
100%.
Just because of that. And so, that's a huge part of why, the customer experience is so crucial. There's in a lot of industries, there's a lot of competition out there. Mm-hmm. And if you're going to beat your competition, you have to make yourself stand out. And if you can't do it with, the usual big ones, speed, price, and quality, then you have to stand out with an experience. You have to add that little extra to make sure that your clients are enjoying working with you more, or just feel better or safer working with you. Just those little things add up.
And to jump off of that, you really need everyone in your company to think that same way, which I think is very important for the longevity and the consistency of that experience. Is that, okay, you and I are meeting with clients and we're giving them this experience, but then you can't have the person who answers the phone or the crew chief or the people who are in the field to give them a totally different experience that doesn't fall in line with that. And so putting the customer first, it has to be kind of this general centric concept within the company culture.
Yeah, and that's a tricky thing to discuss too. In general, it's not easy to. Everybody has their own different ways of thinking, their own ways of seeing the world, their own ways of what their thoughts of the customer experience should be. And so that's going to be the same case with every single employee that you have. Everyone's going to have their own mentality as to how things should be done and how people should be spoken to and all of that. And so it is not a natural thing for somebody to come in and for you just to have a 20-minute conversation with them saying, this is the ethos of our company, this is the way we like to be, and this is how you need to be. And then from there forward, wow, I've got it. That's how we are. That's who we are. I associate with that, and I'm going to treat every customer just like that from here forward.
Yeah, it doesn't happen overnight, and it doesn't happen by one conversation. I think it happens through showing by example. Showing by example, number one. But number two, by individual circumstances. And as you go,
a lot of
lessons are learned by everybody. Not everybody, when you start a new job, you're not going to come in knowing everything about that place or that, facility or whatever it is. And I can tell you, being in corporate environment previous to this, they do try to, I went through numerous training programs there, but they do try to instill it in you, and they try to repeat the same, okay, this is our company culture, and here's our quote line, and they keep saying it over and over until you're like, oh yeah, that's who I am. This is what I am. Mm-hmm. But it still takes a long period of time, even with extensive training that they invested into me. So when you're a small business, you're obviously not going to be outlaying $100,000 and just training an individual, no. But you are going to want to consistently have meetings with them. Like that, we do a breakfast usually every couple months with all the employees to kind of run through everything and just check the pulse and make sure everybody feels good and everybody is in the same page and same line with us.
Even as a business owner, you can. Especially if you've got a successful business or, a busy business, it's tough sometimes to take a moment and explain something. The days get really hectic and out of control sometimes, and often you're just trying to keep up with what's going on and put out fires all day long some days. But at the same time, you have to recognize, when there's an important lesson to be learned or to be taught. Both ways, learned or taught, and take the time to either internalize what you've learned from an experience you've had that day, or take the time to listen to one of your employees and take the time to kind of teach them. And for instance, let's say you have somebody working for your company who answers the phone. That is a massively important role for a business because it's a first impression. It's the first experience that most people have with a business. And if you've got somebody answering the phone and having some kind of issues with customers where they're not very pleased with the person they're speaking to on the other end of that line, you have to fix that. You're gonna have to make adjustments. And so let's say you get a customer ends up speaking to you as the business owner and saying, hey, I was just on the phone with so-and-so, I guess at your front desk there, and it was not a good experience. This is what they said to me. Or even vice versa, if you're person you've got answering the phones comes to you and says, I just got off the phone with this person. They were a jerk, so I said this back to them. You have to actually take a moment and listen and say, okay, let's talk about that though. Rewind. Let's go back into that conversation. What happened first? How'd you answer the phone? How did they respond? Where did it go from there? And how did it get to the point where you're talking about? And let's see if we can reverse that and kind of avoid that in the future. Yeah. In a very neutral or, positive way.
And it's important to not have, when you bring on new people or new roles and whatnot, it's important to not have these crazy expectations of somebody if you haven't taught them something or they don't know it, and that's a big thing that you can fall in a trap of. Well, I would have expected them to know that isn't something you would say. Well, they don't know, they're not mind readers. And so I think it's important to always stay on point with that and make sure that you are utilizing those instances for lessons, but also kind of working in different times when you can kind of go through your pitch and how you would say something. For us early on, we were all, Cory, our father, and I were all in like one little office here space, and we were listening to each other's pitches constantly on a daily basis. Mm-hmm. And just because Cory would say something some way, or I would say something some way, didn't mean it was the perfect way or the best way to say something. And so we would always try to help each other out and self-correct and say, hey, instead of saying this is the cheapest option, say this is the least expensive option. And it's little changes in wording that you're like, oh yeah, that does click and make a lot more sense, because nobody wants to buy something that's cheap.
Yep.
Right? And it's not cheap, it's still $3,000, but it's the cheapest or less expensive option out of the refrigeration category. Mm-hmm. And so in their mind, it becomes a lot more, of a reasonable thing to go with.
I mean, we literally spent years doing that. A couple of years just listening into every conversation each one of us would have and just critiquing right afterwards, immediately afterwards. The customer would walk out the door and you'd walk back into the office, or I'd walk back in, and the other one would say, hey, yeah, that little thing, hey, that was kind of awkward, or that kind of didn't come out right, or I'm not sure if they would have understood what you meant by this. And
right.
It's just stuff, once again, it truly, truly is so simple, but simple doesn't mean easy. It actually is easy. It doesn't mean quick.
Right.
It doesn't mean you're going to figure it out quickly. It takes time. You have to put in the effort. You have to put in the thought. You have to be consciously, actively always thinking about these things and wanting to be better, wanting to do better in order to realize what could be better. And then you need to actively take those steps of making those small incremental improvements one after another. And each one of those improvements is a super simple thing to do. And after you start doing it and make it a point of doing it regularly, eventually, pretty quickly, it'll become internalized. You won't ever have to think about it again. I never say cheap about anything. I haven't said cheap in years. This is the least expensive option. That comes entirely naturally. I will never say cheap about anything that I sell ever. And
only competitors.
So yeah, exactly. And so that's something that over time you internalize those individual little things, and so it allows you to incrementally add and add and add more and more little details and more things. It's just important to keep working on it.
The other big part of it too is to try to get customer feedback. However you can do that, whether it's through Google reviews or just phone calls back from the clients, we always ask for the clients to let us know how things are going, how everybody's doing at the end of the job. Did everything go as smooth as you wanted it to be? It's so crucial to hear that, because clients will be honest with you, and that honesty will help you grow.
And even not even just asking them about their experiences from once they met you and started speaking to you onward, but even prior. How'd you hear about us?
Yeah.
Asking how people heard about you. We ask that of every single client that reaches out to us. How'd you hear about us?
Well, and we've asked them about their experience with other contractors previous to us. How has that fared for you? Good, bad, something in between. Just so we know and understand where you're coming from, because a lot of people have really bad experiences with contractors, especially in South Florida. And so they're already frustrated from the start of the job. And we're always trying to understand where their mindset is and why they're thinking the way that they're thinking from the get. Because it's that important to always have that good rapport with the client, always have good feedback and open communication.
Yeah. So if we're gonna say what's one, like the main, for you, Chad, what's the main key point for somebody building or growing a brand or a business to kind of think about in terms of the customer experience, to focus on what's?
I would say the most important thing as the owner or a manager or anybody in a position where you can have influence on the changes in the company is to stay aware and consciously make the effort to be one step ahead and one step nicer than the competitors. So constantly making those little iterations and changes to your processes, and constantly thinking about and being empathetic, right? Put yourself into someone else's shoes. How would I want to be feeling if I was in this circumstance? And that really helps you a lot in life in general, empathy. And I think that it's just a crucial part of understanding how the end retailer and client or whatever it is going to want to feel. And if you're able to do that on an effective way, on an effective method and consistent change and growth on that, then you're going to go, and be a really good person and a really good, business owner.
Yep, for sure.
And with that being said, I'll finish with a quote, because we always do. This one is a company that we didn't touch base on today, but we know that they're an incredible customer experience level, and really has been the game changer for this decade, really. And this is from Jeff Bezos from Amazon. We see our customers as invited guests to a party, and we are host. It is our job every day to make every important aspect of the customer experience a little bit better.
Not everyone might like Jeff Bezos for a whole slew of reasons, but he did figure out customer service in quite an incredible way. And
it's incredible.
I have to say, I order on Amazon on a daily basis, because it's just so easy. Yeah. It's so simple, and it's a great experience.
Yep,
so
absolutely.
Yeah, if you have any questions about the customer experience, or any thoughts about business in general, or if you just want to reach out to us and speak to us, feel free. And we're happy that you're here watching and enjoying these episodes with us. We're going to keep moving forward and creating this content. These are kind of fun experiences for us. And so, yeah, thanks again for tuning in. Thank you, Jacob Tacos with Nothing Negative, again, for setting up the whole video experience and the whole recording. And, we look forward to more episodes, and we'll see you in the future.
Thank you.